decided to make this video because it doesn't exist, and that kind of occurred to me, and that just bothers the hell out of me. So this year the federal government spent $5 trillion. That's the budget that Trump put forth. That's his big beautiful bill, $5.3 trillion in federal spending. Of that, $1.5 trillion went to Social Security. Around $3 trillion total then was spent on services that help the elderly. Now, elderly people I've talked to who receive Social Security, they receive, estimated it's around $2,000. In actuality, most of the people that I've found only received about $1,800. So they have to go out and they have to work. That leads to them competing for entry-level jobs. That suppresses wages, you see, because they receive this $1,800, and so they need to supplement their income with the job. And so they're willing to take a job that pays less or perhaps has poor pay. And so that's part of why we see stagnated wages. Now, an estimated 1 in 4 Americans will receive Social Security in 2030. It takes 3 workers to pay for one person's Social Security. That'll be nearly 100 million Americans receiving Social Security. It's a pay-as-you-go program. So you pay in now for this year's allotment. So the $1.5 trillion that was paid out, there wasn't enough money. Now there is $2.5 trillion set aside in treasury bonds to shore up payments for Social Security when it's not enough. This year they had to put in $250 billion. It's believed that in 2035 we will run out of this fund. That's why all of the socialists are advocating for tax the rich and pay more. Couldn't you just pay more? Aren't we both rich? Shouldn't we all just pay a little bit more? Well, I'm not. And so I pay a portion of my check to Social Security. It doesn't contribute to my Social Security. It doesn't go into a fund. I'm cutting a check to somebody else. The remainder of their money is this $2.5 trillion in Social Security bonds, or in Treasury bonds rather, which is a terrible way to store it. What happens? Well, essentially the real welfare queens are the Karens that we've met along the way. So trims and cuts have been made everywhere else in the budget because they don't want to address the difference in dichotomy here. The boomer generation is getting old, and so you're starting to see things that favor millennials, a resurgence in products that we might want to buy because it's now reasonable to say this is the largest demographic, this is who we should target. So you get Star Wars Battlefront, you get Oblivion, you get all of the things that you remember from your childhood and brought back to get your money, get one last snap, you know. But they're holding back on Modern Warfare 2. They don't want to give you Fallout New Vegas because they know that once they do, this trick runs out. They've run this gambit before. And that's what you're going to see is a shift in politics. Now, they're happy on the right here to talk about kicking out the Hispanics. They're happy on the right here to talk about, you know, why they don't support raising the minimum wage. They're happy to talk about all these things, but they're not happy to talk about how America has become whole cloth socialistic because it offends the boomers because of the idea that it's their money. And what needs to be said is we still have your money. It's $2.5 trillion. Something else needs to be done. We need to come up with a new way to allocate these funds. I've looked into it. Means testing, it doesn't seem like it would do very much. Even though the payments can go up to $5,000, most people really only receive about $2,000. And again, the problem is for most people, it's not enough money. If we shut the tap off today, people would die. But what's happening is that young people have a time limit on when they can start families, right? I'm 30. So my time to start a family is running out. And in order to attract a spouse, you need a job. You need an income. We've been denied the opportunity to do this in our 20s, which means that the people that I meet and that I date, the women that I run into, she and I will both be set in our ways. We'll be the people that we are. And so instead of growing up when we're 20 and we're both shitty, we're both just shitty now. We're just stuck. And it's harder to grow. It's harder to develop. You're not a part of that struggle. It's denied to us. And now what's being denied is the opportunity to have children and raise families. And people are saying millennials don't want that. I just don't think that's true. I talk to plenty of young people who want that. It's Gen Z, I find, mostly that isn't interested in that. And it's born out of apathy, the same apathy that makes bureaucracy useless, that really ruins government, that makes this whole system a problem, the elephant in the room nobody will talk about. And so rather than leave you apathetic, I'm going to leave you resolute. And I'm going to tell you that these demographic changes are coming and they're shifting, and eventually they'll stop pandering to the boomer demographic and saying, look, we can support you throughout your retirement. And they will start saying to millennials, look, we can get you houses, we can get you guys started on families, we can get things going. And I think you'll see a real shift in politics. And I hope that that's what you're noticing, is that there's a hearkening of something else that's coming, you know. But even the Bible tells us, woe unto you who join house to house and field to field until there is no place to dwell in the midst of the land. So thank you. Have a nice day.